ones that are the astronauts, the physicists, and the doctors that made this country great when it was great.
And thank you, thank you all. And yeah, Betsy, we can move on from there now. And Dorsey, I was just trying to keep it, you know, we don't want it to get away from us here. So I think that was addressed. You said that you were concerned, and that's fine. That's what we wanted to do. Something else to consider when we're talking about charter schools is almost all, you alluded to the charter schools in Durham, almost all of the charter schools are in major urban areas. There are not many charter schools. If the schools are doing very well in any given area, you don't have to worry about it. Camden County does not have to worry about anybody opening up a charter school. Currituck County does not have to worry about anybody opening up a charter school. I doubt very much.
I believe they have one in Corolla.
Well, they may have one, okay, but it's, the schools there are top flight. I mean, they're.
That wasn't the reason.
But wait a minute, did somebody else have their question before you? Yes, ma'am.
All right, I'll make mine kind of quick. About 15 years ago, I worked at a charter school as a favor to a friend, and this is how well this charter school worked. I remember as a certified teacher teaching 3rd grade, being called out of my classroom by one of my 4th grade teacher colleagues who was not certified, because only 50% in charter school teachers need to be certified. And I remember being between our 2 trailers, teaching him how to teach fractions to his 4th graders. So that's what the charter schools are going to do when they don't have highly qualified teachers.
Ma'am, I could, with all due respect, I could point that out to people. You should see some of the letters I've gotten from teachers and look at some of the language of the English teachers, the punctuation. It's shocking, absolutely shocking. So, with all due respect, I understand what you're saying, but believe me, we've got a lot of people in the system, and if they're teaching high school English, I'll show you some of their letters. You wouldn't believe it. Absolutely wouldn't believe it.
So I happen to have very good grammar, so if you ever got a letter from me,
no,
it would be on point.
Yeah, I'm sure you're fine.
My thing is, you make the offer that you would walk a day in our shoes.
Try.
But the one thing that you didn't say is, are you going to be making the lesson plans? Are you going to be handling the discipline? Are you going to be wiping the noses of children whose noses need to be wiped? Are you going to be dealing with the parents? Are you going to be dealing with the disciplines? I don't know if you can truly walk a day in our shoes.
Oh.
And I'm going to tell you frankly, and I'm going to say it very politely, I am highly offended by some of the things when you say the system is broken. I consider myself a top-notch teacher, and all I'm hearing is how poorly I'm doing. It's like every day I'm getting beaten down more and more and more. And if I didn't keep telling myself, you are a good teacher, you've made a difference in a lot of children's lives, please don't tell them I might be a loony bin right now.
Ma'am, are you willing to say right now that every single teacher is a good teacher, great teacher, and every single teacher across America in the state of North Carolina?
Good teachers.
Yeah. Well, they're all good. Okay, they're all good.
I said there are more good teachers.
I'm not refuting that. I'm not refuting that. I'm not saying
But
that.
I don't think it's enough to beat the rest of us down. I mean, do
Who's
we ever,
beating anybody down?
just things that you do and that you say.
Like what? Give me an example.
Schools are broken.
This education system isn't working.
With the teachers, it's not. It's not working. Your pay system isn't working. We've got to fix it. You're not being paid enough. You haven't been paid enough.
I give 110% to my job every day.
I know that.
Every day.
I heard you say that in July, and I believe you then, and I believe you now. And I'm not doubting that. We're trying to get you and the good teachers like you more money to make your job a little bit better, a little bit easier, to make lives for your family a little bit better.
Well, I've been teaching almost 40 years, and if all the money's going to the newer teachers, how long do I have to wait to get a raise?
Did you hear what I told you earlier,
I
ma'am? Were you
heard there's
listening?
going to be some.
Okay.
But apparently, I feel like it's being, put on the back burner. But you don't understand what you're doing to the morals of the good teachers that are busting their tails each and every day. And all we hear is the system.
You're not hearing that from me.
Well, you say teachers.
You're not hearing that from me. What?
You have said several times just to...
Well, give me a quote.
A quote. Charter schools allow students to, quote, escape failing school.
Correct. So you're telling me there's no failing schools? Are you telling me there's no failing schools?
I'm making the point that we are beaten down because we are...
Are you telling me there's no failing schools? You can't tell me that because it's not true.
I can tell you my school's not failing.
Well, that's fine, and hers isn't either, that's great. And I'm not talking about your school or her school. I'm talking about failing schools. Remember something, the state of North Carolina has to deal, I beg your pardon?
What school in this county do you consider failing?
What school in this county do I consider failing? You don't want to hear which school I consider failing, because I don't think it's any one school. I think there are a number of them that aren't doing as well as they could.
As well as they could?
It's anywhere near. It is a known fact that when people come to this area looking for employment, that the schools here locally have been a problem. You talk to anybody in recruiting, they'll tell you that. I'm not saying there's not good schools. I'm not saying there's not good teachers. I'm talking about 115 LEAs and how many thousands of schools across the state of North Carolina and 90,000 teachers. You want me to blanketly accept, and the legislature to accept, that everything that we've been doing is Jim Dandy, it's fine, we don't need to fix anything, just give us more money, that's all we need, and that'll take care of everything. I have to look at the entire state, not just this region. My heart is here in this region, but I have to, as a legislator, I am beholden to the state of North Carolina taxpayers to get the most bang for their buck, to have the most efficient use of their money spent. And if it's not being spent and we're not getting the results that we think we should be getting, as measured by any number of standards, this is what it always comes down to. We didn't do anything wrong. We're doing everything great. Why are you picking on us? Why are you beating us down? How about let's having a conversation? How about you know something? Let's try this. Let me hear from one of you people out here tonight that is a teacher. I want to hear one of you tell me about one problem that you've got in the school. I want you to tell me that everything is working absolutely perfect. Get up and on the record, tell me who you are. Let's put it on the record, and I want you to tell me that everything is absolutely hunky-dory in education in North Carolina.
Obviously, every school has problems.
Exactly.
Many of our problems, we have problems with kids coming into our school, into kindergarten, with parents who have never spoken to them, they have no concept of
I know.
language. We have kids coming into our school that are bouncing off the walls because they can't get their medication, or their medication is wrong, or because they're on medication. We have kids coming into our schools hungry every day. We have problems, yes. But you're standing there making us feel like we are the problem.
No, I'm not, ma'am. I'm here telling the truth, that this is the situation that exists. We need to fix it. That's what I'm saying. I'm telling you the truth. You're not listening, because you're looking at it through your eyes and your eyes alone and how this impacts you. And the people that you teach with at your school. I have to look at it bigger. Now, I'll call on you in just a moment. This gentleman's had his hand up, so. Good evening. Nice to see you. I think you've even been to my home, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, you did.
Many conversations.
Yes.
First, when you talk about that schools are failing, first of all, what is that judge? What are you using to judge failing schools?
I think there's any number of criteria. You can look at test scores. You can look at graduation rates. I think the biggest key, here's the biggest key. I'll give you this. And you can think about this. If the schools were all doing as well as they should, why do a significant number of our students, a majority of our students that are graduating from our schools, why are they having to take remedial classes in college? Why? Are they prepared? No. A vast majority of students in this state, and I can show you the numbers, are having to take remedial classes, high school graduates. Is that acceptable? By the time they get to college, these kids are supposed to already have, they don't need to take remedial work. I never took a remedial course, and believe me, I was not brilliant by any stretch of the imagination. But I didn't have to take a remedial course. Yes, sir.
I still have a valid question, because if you're going by test scores, that is one day, or let's say a 10-year-old who's put through 3 hours of testing. You would think they were getting ready to graduate medical school or something and go be a doctor. This is one snapshot in time. Whereas a teacher, we see that child from day one,
Right.
and we're we're assessing them all year long.
Right.
We all know that mom and dad could have had a huge fight the night before. It dramatically impacts that child. They're not an adult. They don't know how to cope with those things. So there are lots of things that are impacting those one snapshot scores that we're considering, hey, this school is failing. Whereas maybe we should say, okay, what are the dynamics of that school?
Right.
Like Ms. Hotchkiss was saying, what are these kids coming to us? What is their mindset? It's a huge factor in what goes. And I'm not trying to divert the attention away from teachers. We are responsible for delivering instruction and making sure that we help grow those students. But as we all know, when students come to us at a certain grade level, they might not be on grade level.
Mm-hmm.
So if a child comes to me that's on first grade level and they're in fourth grade, I mean, you have to be Jesus Christ to make sure that they were going to be ready for fifth grade, because that's a miracle.
Well, the question might be, should those kids be coming to you? I'm not a big believer in the test either. I mean, and you and I talked about this when you came to visit with your friend. And we had a nice visit that day, and really, I think, accomplished a great deal. And I think I did more listening than talking. And you made some very, very valid points, and we followed up with a couple of phone calls afterwards. And some of this is being implemented into, when I was saying there's some other changes that are going to be taking place in education. Some of those things that you had suggested to me are in fact being considered moving on. My personal feeling in terms of trying to evaluate a teacher is, who was the student that came in? At what level were they when they came in? And at what level are they when they leave? And if they have improved that student even that much, they've improved the student. And they should be entitled to a performance bonus if that's the way it is. It shouldn't be if you can't bring them from C to an A or a B to an A plus or something like that. No, that shouldn't be the only measuring stick. And I thought, you and I had hammered that out. I think teachers, there's nothing wrong with ruling out and setting as a guideline improvement. But improvement doesn't mean going from 0 to 100. Improvement might mean going 60 to 65. That's improvement. The teacher's done that, and the teacher needs to be rewarded for that.
And the reason I said that, going back to being beaten down, whatever the phrase that you want to say, is it's not just about the pay. I know we've kind of been on that because of the new thing that they're coming up with pay raises. But it's several things. It's like the test scores that are published. So that's one snapshot. And most parents don't realize what that really means anyway. So again, it's like for this year with them going to the Common Core, and again, we've got a whole new set of curriculum. We're going to arbitrarily, we're going to set the bar here. So now scores drop way down for everybody across the board. So does that mean teachers were doing a worse job? I don't think so. Across the board, if we're going to blanket that. Anyway, if you wanted to know the answer to that question, I think that's one of the ways that we feel like we're being beaten down.
Right, and I would, and Holly, I'm going to recognize you next. We did talk about that. I think there's way too much testing. The governor and the lieutenant governor and the leaders and most of the leaders in the General Assembly agree that this testing has been, it's just awful. So I'm with you on that. I was never a good tester. I didn't test well. But at the end of the year, I got a decent grade, passed, and ended up going to college and graduating and becoming successful. So it is, I understand, you're right, and that's a valid point, and we're trying to address that.
One last question, and if you could pose this to me or anybody up there, the research that was used for the master's degree to not keep paying on the master's scale. In that same study, it says, we find with clear evidence that teachers with more experience are more effective than those with less experience. So if they're using that research for one thing, it seems like they would also be using that for teacher pay raises, because in that same research study out of Durham,
Mhm.
that is saying that.
Was that study done on those Durham schools that are failing, or no? Was that another?
No, it just says that we find clear evidence that teachers with more experience are more effective than those with less experience.
I don't disagree with you. I'm for master incentives pay.
So it's hard for me to wrap my mind around this new pay scale.
I know. I'm with you, and I made the same argument on the House floor and in caucus and in committee. So
keep fighting this.
I'm just on the losing side of that one. Holly, please, Kerber, excuse me.
Thank you, Representative Steinburg. I just want to say up front that just as a member of the community, I really appreciate hearing from the educators locally about their experience and their frustrations. I think it's a really healthy thing, and I really appreciate you all coming out tonight. I do want to point out a little irony, though, for all of you that feel put upon by the pejoratives, and I think your suggestion that you feel beaten down by some of the pejoratives, and I agree that that causes you to be beaten down. I just want to remind you how many times somebody in elected office, in a public servant, having been a person who's professionally recruited public servants for many, many years of my life, how many times we all have used pejoratives to talk about all politicians being dirty, dishonest, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it goes both ways. But I do want to talk to a couple things this gentleman raised. I know what your position was on incentives for people that had master's degrees. And I have a hard time as somebody that tries to be logically ruled how automatically having more education necessarily would make you a more effective teacher. However, I do think that when somebody goes before somebody looking at evaluating them for a position, that one of the basic standards that are evaluated is how much education do you have. And I think someone's going to get a leg up to get a job if they've got, or get a promotion within the system, if they have more education. So it concerns me that we have taken that off the table for them from that point of view. I'm not necessarily convinced it means they make a better teacher just because they have more education. But I do think it does advantage people in ways that affects all teachers. And so what about an option like, and I'm coming this completely naive, so everybody please, if I don't have information, don't hold it against me. I'm asking a genuine question. Can we not provide for teachers some kind of a tax incentive or reduced educational cost? Because educational costs, I'm talking about higher education, is huge today. And when a teacher is struggling on a salary, the idea of paying for their masters is a huge, huge consideration in their personal budgets. If we cannot find empirical data that everybody reaches general consensus about incentive pay for higher education for teachers, can't we do something from a tax incentive or reduce tuition within state schools, et cetera, exclusively for people in public education in order to allow them an easier task at making the choice to invest in further education for themselves?
I would say that's a wonderful idea, and did you get some of that down? Okay. I will be more than happy to take that to the General Assembly, and
I don't know if it's available now. It may be that we give teachers a break, and I have no clue, but
Well,
it seems to me we ought to.
and I think they were talking about the master's incentive pay. They actually got paid more when they got the
I
master's.
understand that.
Yeah,
I'm talking
but
as a
letting them
trade-off.
achieve, it just seems almost to me, if you're in education, why would you not be encouraging people to get advanced degrees? I've never been able to wrap my arms around that. I don't get it, and that's why I fought against us losing it the last time. But we've got it down. Thank you. Larry, hang on just for a second. We have one long-standing arm holder over here. Yes, arm raiser, I should say.
Well, thank you very much to all the teachers here tonight. I'm sure you have tons of test papers and everything else to grade, but you guys took the time to come out here tonight, which there are a few people who said that, Representative Steinburg was picking on you and beating you down. But I think that any teacher here tonight is the example of what a teacher should be, whether you agree with what he says or not, simply coming out here, voicing your opinion, taking in what he has to say. You are doing a great job. And unfortunately, there are teachers out there who are not doing a great job, who, maybe they had a different commitment care enough to come, but a lot of teachers, especially teachers who have been through the system for a few years, who are just going through the motions, and they don't put in the effort that many of you here put in on a daily basis. How do we address, 20-year veterans who may not be able to use the technology that's required, or may not have adapted their lesson plans, or taken new studies into the classroom, who are at this point just going through the motions and not doing a wonderful job that many of the people in this room are doing?
That was a comment, I guess, rather than a question.
Well, how do we get older teachers, not necessarily older, but teachers who have been in the system for so long that they do not take new initiative and change what they're doing to meet the changing demands of today's children, whether it's embracing technology or new methods in the classroom? How do we get these people who are so complacent in their actions, a small minority of teachers, but teachers who are giving a bad name?
I would ask the teachers. I can't answer it, so let's hear from the teachers.
Yeah.
Look at the administrator.
The administrator is responsible for evaluating teachers.
And
So that,
professional development.
yeah, professional development.
Did you get that, guys?
There is a system, and this is, talk about misinformation. There is already a system in place for dismissal of teachers.
So you're saying it's incorrect.
Yeah,
Whoever
you
informed you
don't,
that was misinformed.
yeah, it's
That's where your
career status.
status.
All that means is that a teacher has the right to due process, that they just can't arbitrarily or capriciously just be fired for maybe personal reasons or a vendetta, or the principal has a cousin that needs a job and they're going to get rid of you. So they have to prove that you are incompetent. So you just get that due process. There is a system in place. But that is the principal's or the administrator's job to do that.
And I guess I'd like to know on what are you basing your statistics? Because I've been in school systems for numbers of years, and I know that, and I speak for myself and lots of other people that I know, I'm one of those, I'm retired now, but I take great pride in using my iPad and iPod.
No, good for you. Yes. And let's just go one hand at a time. Yes, ma'am. Yes, yes.
I have a question. Early when you were talking about the teacher pay for the new teachers and things, you said, if I understood you correctly, that you had a committee that was establishing a template for pay raises that meet certain criteria.
Right.
Okay, for the rest of us, the ones that are over 10 years in the
Correct.
job.
A
Okay.
long-term plan for teacher pay, yes.
Okay. The number of years I've been working, I was on the step. It was my understanding, all of those years for the step, they're about $500. I mean, that was just like, you've worked another year, that's for experience that you've earned in the classroom, that kind of thing. And that's why there were so many of those steps, because of course the 30 years would get you through.
Right.
Okay. But with this, I'm curious as to who's on that committee, and do you have any educators on that committee? And then
This is a joint House and Senate committee, and we do have, we draw upon from research, and we've got people on staff that are very in tune with, they're not Republicans or Democrats, they're there for our disposal to gather information for us as we need it. They go out and they do the research, and then bring it to us, and we look at it, and they even have to explain it to us sometimes. One of the biggest frustrations for me when I went to my first education meeting, and I'm on just about all the education committees, was if you're not familiar, and I wasn't, with all of these acronyms, I mean, it's like every couple of years there's some other new program that they put in, and they haven't even worked that one all the way through, and now they're going to something else. And I said, this is utter madness. I mean, I can't, So if I didn't get it, even after 5 months trying to wrap my arms around it, and I don't think a lot of folks in the room did, I did get to the point where we would not allow them to use acronyms anymore. I wanted to know what does this mean? And it's like now, I think you or someone had mentioned Common Core, maybe it was the doctor, I'm not sure who had mentioned Common Core earlier, but there is a lot of discussion going on right now in the General Assembly about where we're going with Common Core, or if we're going forward with Common Core. And of course, if we're not, the reason we took it was because we had all that race to the top money, and that was part of the deal. It's the, bait, they're going to bait you, and okay, we're going to give you this money.
The question was, are there educators advising the process? Are
Yes.
there people with experience in education
Yes.
advising the process?
And there are open committee meetings where folks from, for example, the university system, from the community college system, and experts within the K through 12 realm, like June Atkinson and so forth, that do come in and answer questions that we have. Yes. Yes.
And don't forget the Teacher Advisory Council that meets directly with Governor McCrory.
Okay. There's another one.
That's actually teachers all over the state that actually meet with him on a regular basis.
Okay, Janet's there, hand up there. Janet?
Yes, I would like to clarify something. I know you've said several times that we want to stay this status quo. I dare say that there's anyone in education that does not put the needs of their children first. We want our children to do well. And when you're hearing us say, you think we're anti-voucher or we're anti-charter school, that's not it at all. Vouchers are fine, charter schools are fine, public schools are fine. But if you're going to compare us to voucher schools or charter schools, we must be held to the same standards.
I think that-
You cannot compare apples to oranges.
Janet, I think that the only way you can do that is to look at the results at the end. I mean, what are the achievement levels? I mean, there's a school up near Rocky, let's see, is it Rocky Mount, I think, and I'm trying to think of the name of the school, the charter school, in a very poor area. It's a very significant African-American population. And this charter school opened for these kids who were having problems in the local school districts. And they are now graduating about 97% of their kids, and 92% are going on to college with no remedial help at all necessary. I mean, that's a success story. There's a whole lot of success stories in public schools. There's a whole lot of success stories in private schools. There's a lot of success stories in charter schools. And there are failures in each one of those as well. Again, one size doesn't fit all. Not everything works for everybody. But we can't force everybody into the same widget.
And I agree, but the feeling I'm getting, and not just from you, but from several areas, and what we read about in the newspaper, what's coming from the General Assembly, is that we're not doing a good job in the public schools. But as Dr., I cannot remember her name, but from East Carolina, Dr. Swain said, it's different. You know, the children that are going to these schools, they're not required to provide this. It's just different.
Now, Janet, you know that you and I talk almost every single day on Facebook. We have had these discussions over and over and over again.
I'm the whiner.
Well, you are, I won't go into all the details, but did you get my message today?
I did.
Okay, all right, thank you. Yes?
I guess I, what's the meeting with people who have?
What, we had a question down here, ma'am, first. Okay, excuse me, I'll get to you next. You're next. You're next, yes, ma'am.
I guess I have the most one here is probably educators, I suppose. So somebody who's just a parent, community person, individual, I'm listening and learning as I go. And I don't understand why there's complaints when we've gone from
10 years of, or however many years, of no forward movement, to finally taking positive steps forward on behalf of the teachers. As someone outside looking in, I'm seeing, hey, this thing, we're trying to make it better.